Bum, bum, bum. The dumbest people on Twitter. Yes, hello, everyone. I'm Bobtheorc, and welcome to New Snark, where today we will be discussing how it is un-American to talk about grocery prices in Russia. Yes, today's contestant is Senator Thomas Tills. I believe he is a Republican from South Carolina. If it's North Carolina, I'm sorry. I don't go out to that part of the world very often anymore. But you would think that as a Republican, he would be a self-proclaimed expert on exactly what it is to be an American. He even has an American flag in his background. And because you're a senator, good sir, I will treat you with the same respect that I would treat a tobacco executive. If the tobacco executive were, statistically speaking, a corrupt neocon. Because, let's face it, most of the people in the House and Senate are corrupt warmongering neocons at this point. So, we're going to make fun of you today because you obviously are deliberately misunderstanding what Tucker's talking about when he's noticing that groceries are affordable in Russia. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go play what Tucker said, and then we are going to discuss it a little bit.
I went from amused to legitimately angry. So we were guessing what this would cost. Everybody hears from the United States buys groceries, and we didn't pay any attention to costs as we were just putting in the cart what we would actually eat over a week. And we all came in around $400, about $400.
And $400 is a lot to spend per week on groceries.
$104 US here. And that's when you start to realize that ideology maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought, corruption. If you take people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation, and they literally can't buy the groceries they want, at that point, maybe it matters less what you say or whether you're a good person or a bad person. You're wrecking people's lives in their country, and that's what our leaders have done to us. And coming to a Russian grocery store, the heart of evil, and seeing what things cost and how people live, it will radicalize you against our leaders. That's how I feel anyway, radicalized. We're not making any of this up, by the way, at all.
So, here's the thing. Tucker's not talking about how great Russia is. You're like, yes, Russia is so much better than the U.S. with all those cheap groceries and lavish subway stations. The Soviets have a term for you people like Tucker, useful idiots. And then we have a wonderful reply down here. You dirtbags have done nothing to prevent the state we are in today. You have squandered our wealth, buried us in regulations, sanctified our young in foreign lands, and destroyed our money. You are the problem. Yes. Mr. Lead Slinger, you are exactly correct. All of these jerks in Washington are exactly the problem. So here's the reality. You know, I've been to Russia a number of times. I've been to Ukraine a number of times. I've even been to Russia twice since the war started. I got practically strip searched in the airport when I was returning to the U.S. Thank you very much, TSA. So the reality is this. I've got a friend who lives in Russia. Well, actually, I have a lot of friends who live in Russia, but one in particular, and we discuss grocery bills pretty regularly. And she spends about $50 a week on groceries. Yeah, it's about $200 a month, give or take, depending on the exchange rate. But she spends about 5,000 rubles a week in groceries, and she lives alone. So maybe this what Tucker was buying, for 90 or for 10,000 rubles, maybe that's for a small family. But grocery prices are significantly cheaper in Russia. Why is that, I wonder? Well, I used to be able to buy groceries for about $50 a week back before the dollar became worthless and they started cutting oil production and energy prices went up. Did you know, and you should know because you're from, ostensibly rural state, although I don't know if there's a big farm industry in South Carolina, but did you know that a major factor of food production costs is energy costs? Oh my God, who would have thought it? That all those tractors and combines need to run on diesel fuel. And when you make stuff expensive, food gets expensive too. And then the food has to get from the farms to the grocery store where I can buy it and then into my belly, right? And that requires semi trucks, which also run on, that's right, diesel fuel. Yes, so when you raise the price of gas, and I know it's not specifically your fault, I think it's more the Democrats that are wanting to jack up food prices, or jack up gas prices. I'm sorry, that raises the cost of fuel. But here's where it is your fault. When you guys did all the sanctions on Russia, where, oh wait, the majority of the world's fertilizer comes from that we need for our farms because we've depleted our soil. Fertilizer price went up because the Russians were like, screw you Americans. Actually, they were happy to sell it to us anyway. They've actually been, they're just selling it through, third-party countries, right? But the fertilizer prices went up, which, what that does? It makes food prices go up. And when you then hit people with burdensome regulations, because you guys are all a bunch of World Economic Forum jerks, food prices go up some more. And so now I don't know anybody that's spending $400 a week on groceries who's like a single person, maybe for a family. But then again, it depends on if you're in an inner city somewhere or not. But food prices have gotten really damn expensive. I used to be able to buy steak for $5 a pound, and now it's like $15 a pound. And I ain't eating no bugs. I'm eating my steak because that's what my doctor says I should eat, because steak is good for you. You can get like the Mexican beef for about $9-10 a pound, and it's actually pretty good. And they have less burdensome regulations there, so it costs less. But when you dump a bunch of burdensome regulations on Americans, that disproportionately affects small business, by the way. All you Republicans who are like, we are pro-business Republicans, you're like pro-big business Republicans. You don't care about small businesses like me or the companies that any of my friends have. So that suppresses the economy. And then when you print and spend money, faster than the rate of economic growth, prices go up. All that money that's going to Ukraine, that wait, my friend who lives in Ukraine, who is in logistics in the Territorial Defense Force, she says, that 90% of the stuff that you Americans allegedly send to Ukraine doesn't make it here. And it's not all getting blown up by the Russians. I know that getting blown up by the Russians is a great cover for people to steal stuff. Because we didn't steal the money, it got blown up. But wait, you guys even admitted that all that money's coming back into America, into the defense contractors, right? So you're printing and spending money, which makes prices go up. And then when you flood the country with workers, whether through illegal immigration or legal immigration, doesn't matter, and I'm going to diss on Trump. He allowed you Republicans to go bring over, 500,000 Indian IT workers, which suppressed IT worker wages. I mean, I guess it's great for me because I don't have to pay my people as much. Oh, wait, I do, because I'm not an asshole. But, you're driving down wages. So everything's getting more expensive. People are getting paid less, and the economy is contracting because of all your bad decisions in Washington. And you know what they don't do in Russia? They don't do any of that stupid stuff. Sure, the Russian government's corrupt, but they're not dumb, and they understand, if we do things like scuttle our nation's food supply, then we're going to lose this war. And so they don't do dumb things like that because they're at least serious people, and they understand you can only steal so much from your taxpayers before things go bad. And apparently, you politicians here in America, you haven't figured it out. You can only steal so much before the whole system crashes. And you guys are really trying hard to crash the system. Now, I'm going to talk about the other side of things. Yes, groceries are a lot cheaper in Russia, but people don't get paid as much. So, if I go to Russia and spend $100 on groceries, that's not that big of a deal for me. And that would be a big deal for your average Russian because they don't get paid nearly as much as we get paid here in America. Your average cost of rent in Russia is probably $400 to $500 a month, maybe $300 a month. A lot of people, that's for like a small apartment. A lot of people share spaces, in fact, in a lot of traditional countries, I know this is true in Greece as well, where a lot of my family's from, you have several generations all living together in the family household because it saves money. So it's actually a real luxury here in America that we earn enough money to live, by ourselves. But, my friend in Novosibirsk, I think she's paying about $450-ish a month in rent. And my friend in Moscow was paying about $500-ish a month in rent. So it's a lot cheaper than here in America, but also you have to factor in that Russians don't earn as much money. So it's still quite expensive for them. But Russians can afford to live. I mean, they're not a luxurious country. Moscow is a very nice city. I've been there before the war. I've been there after the war started. You don't notice a difference. Moscow's a very nice city. People don't piss on the streets. They don't throw trash everywhere. And the major parts of Moscow is very well maintained. Now, once you start leaving the center of Moscow where Tucker was staying, you go a few kilometers in any direction away from the center, and things start getting a little bit dicey. Same in St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg is a beautiful city. I was there over the summer. My friends and I went and saw Swan Lake at the St. Petersburg Ballet. My favorite ballet, performed by presumably one of the best ballet companies in the world. And we got the best seats in the house for about $100-ish a piece, give or take, which is a lot of money in Russia, but it's not that much money. And if you were to do that at the Met or at the New York Ballet, you'd be spending $500 probably for those seats. So stuff costs less in Russia. Now, if you go out to rural Russia, like let's say Samara, I've been to Samara, and that's kind of like the Russian equivalent of Oklahoma City. It's a rural community. The center of town is nice. Once you start getting out away from the center, it's a little bit rough. And not like rough crime-wise, but rough, the roads are rough. You have a lot of infrastructure from the 70s and 80s that the Soviets built that Russia as a nation just hasn't had the money to maintain. And Russia's had to make some tough decisions. Financially, they focus on their most crucial areas. So like their major roads are going to be really, really nice. Their subways are going to be really nice because that's how people get around. And then the back roads and the side roads. Now you're looking at like rural Oklahoma kind of stuff. Not so nice. So I think that because Tucker only saw the best part of Moscow, he has a bit of a false impression of what all of Russia's like, but the nicest part of Moscow is nicer than the nicest part of New York right now, because you don't have crackheads crapping on the street in Moscow, probably because they get tossed in the gulag, but also culturally the Russians just don't do that because they care about their country. They don't, even if you go to the lousy parts of the middle of nowhere Russia, they don't litter. They pick up stuff because they care. Here in America, you've got a bunch of Americans who care, and then you've got a bunch of people who just kind of live here who don't care. And so you're kind of jumping the shark a little bit. I don't think it's un-American to point out that there are things that Russia does that's way better than what America does. Because guess what? We used to be that good. We used to be even better. But we're not, because sellouts like you are selling out the American treasure chest to all of your special interest groups. And Tucker's pointing that out. And of course he's disillusioned. I'm not saying that Russia is an uncorrupt country. I'm sure they have plenty of corruption. But even their corrupt politicians at least know their limits and don't go so far as to deliberately tank the country. You guys have run up, what, $30+ trillion in debt, whatever Thomas Massey's little debt clock says. Go spend some time in the elevator with Thomas Massey. And let him educate you on how you guys are wasting a lot of money. But oh no, we have to send all this money to Ukraine and Israel and Afghanistan, and half of our national debt is war money that we have spent in pointless foreign wars. Now, I'm not saying that I want Russia to go and conquer Ukraine, But maybe y'all should have thought about that before you overthrew the government in 2014. And I'll make a separate video talking about what Putin was telling the truth about and what he was maybe kind of bending a little bit. But the reality is you guys are throwing our money away for stuff that we're not getting a return on. It might be different if America was winning the war in Ukraine, but we're not. We're throwing it away, and all this money isn't even going to help the Ukrainian people. It's going to enrich your friends. So I think you're being very disingenuous with Tucker. Now, Tucker gets a lot of things wrong. I think he was probably unprepared for Russia. I suspect this is his first time being in Russia, and he probably didn't grow up going to church with a bunch of Russian people at church. You know, being Greek Orthodox, we had a lot of Russian and Ukrainian Orthodox people at church. But calling him a useful idiot just makes you look stupid, because you, specifically you and all your buddies, are the problem. And you can't just blame it on Biden. Sure, all that Biden corruption money in Ukraine, the Hunter Biden stuff, that's all true. But y'all Republicans are doing that also. So just remember that. The reason Republican voters are voting for Trump is not because they hate Biden. They're voting for Trump because they hate you. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel. And I wanted to find something useful to make fun of. I spent about 30 seconds on the toilet browsing Twitter before I found this post. So that's how much research I do going into finding dumb people on the internet. But if you like these videos, subscribe to my channel. And if you have any other idiots on the internet that you want me to roast, go send me a link in the comments, talk about it, and I will look them up and make fun of them too. Thank you and goodbye.